How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Of Dirt. Today, we're going to talk about what is and what is not the 450RL. And there's going to be a little bonus category at the end. So, obviously, I'm here in my house. I'm not out riding. I just don't have the time for it today. So, it is what it is. But there have been a lot of people to make the purchase of this bike, and they kind of misunderstood what it was. So hopefully I can help you make an informed decision based off just my experience with it so far, and also some of the Facebook groups that I'm a part of, because I did ask some of them, what made you get rid of this bike. And so hopefully I can alleviate that. This might be a bit long-winded, and I'm sorry for that, but there is some information in here that hopefully at least one person can find, worth it. All right, so what is it? It is a street legal dirt bike. It's not an ADV bike. It is a dirt bike. Based off the CRF450X. That's street legal. So it's got a detuned engine and a bit softer suspension. It does most things well. And that's really what I like about it is, again, it does most things well. It is not a purpose-built bike, and I think that's what a lot of people thought it was. I think that was the disconnect, is that they saw the bike, it looks aggressive, it looks like, it can handle things very well, or better than, they thought. It's great for exploring. That's primarily what I use it for. And you can slap a big old tank on there. I've got a 5-gallon tank on mine. And I've gone through rocks, sand, all sorts of other things, and it does it well. You just need to have the basic skill to control it. It's great with upgrades, though. And unfortunately, I didn't get to ride mine stock. I bought it fully built out. But I can tell with where it's at right now that it definitely would have been lacking, especially without the ECU or even a weighted flywheel. It is an off-road bike. It's not a dual sport that's tailored to on-road, maybe like an XR650L, where it does road very well, but it does off-road, okay. It does on-road okay, which I'm okay with that. I do 90% riding off-road, and maybe I'll increase that over time, as far as road time goes, but for the most part, I'm an off-road guy. It's fairly tame. People hear 450 and they're like, this thing is gonna have, it's gonna have a ton of power. It's gonna be a fire-breathing dragon. And I'm telling you now, it's not. I came off a YZ450, a race bike, and that's a fire-breathing dragon for sure. But it's not gonna rip your arms off. I think it can do fairly well in most things, and it does have the power there when you need it. Me being sort of I don't want to say, but a prepper kind of guy, it's a great bug out platform. It really is. It's, like I said, you can have all these upgrades for it, and also sort of an important key part is the subframe, and the subframe is strong. So you can load it down with gear, and you're not gonna have to worry about it, breaking like you would maybe a FE501. It's okay for aggressive riders, and I say that because I sort of fancy myself as an aggressive rider, even though I'm not good by any means. I'm, as I call it, a shit tier C rider. But when I'm on the throttle, I'm on it, and I try to ride as aggressive as I can most of the time. I'm kind of starting to calm down now, but it can still kind of tickle your fancy, I guess is one way to put it. It's a fun bike too. At least for me it is. For me, it is a fun bike. And I understand that is subjective, but for what I do, for what my riding style has evolved into, it's fun. It's also made in Japan. I know with the 300s, those are made in, I believe, Taiwan. If that means anything to you, it's decently light. It is not as light as a 501 or the XCF LMNOP 500, but as far as it weighs about the same as the CRF 300Ls. It's lighter than the Rally, and it's has more power. So I think there is something to be said there. And then it has, again, like I just said it, but it has decent power. It's in the low 40s, and depending on what's done to it, or also people have dynoed it, and it's claiming one thing, but it is producing more. And I'm not sure if that's just Honda trying to lowball themselves for whatever reason, but they did it in the car world back in the day during their gentleman's agreement in Japan. I think Donut did a really good video on that. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. But we're gonna get into what it's not now. What it is not a race bike. It, like I said, it's tame. It's not an enduro bike, and it is not a true adventure bike, though it can be pretty close, though. I'll give it that. It's not meant for technical riding, and it's not a good road bike. It's okay. It can do it. But again, it's not going to be nice and plush on the road. Also, it's not great off the showroom floor. I said earlier, you're going to need some mods for it to make it good. And that's kind of just the way it is. It doesn't sound like a 450 either. I was a little disappointed with that, but it is also kind of what I expected. When I ride a 450, I want that thing to bark. But it doesn't unless you maybe put a different exhaust on there. Even then, the exhaust still sounds pretty tame. It is very corked up. But you made it this far. Now, I'm going to say who this is not for. And this might offend someone. This is just kind of based off what I think. So, if you want to come at me, go for it. I've got thick skin, but we can also make this a discussion. So, I don't believe it's for anyone if this is their first dual sport or off-road bike, unless you have a solid off-road riding background. And I think a lot of people got this wrong. They're like, oh, I just came off an R1 or some other, big bike. They're like, I can handle the power, and then they get this bike, and it either lacks power for what they're used to, or it's got too much power because they don't have a solid set of off-road riding skills. And a lot of people attributed their bad skills for the bike being bad. Yes, it does want to flame out a bit easier than normal, or most bikes, but that can be overcome with proper riding skills. Shorter people, that thing's tall. Y'all might have a hard time with it. I'm 6'2", so I'm good. It's right up my alley. And then inexperienced riders. This kind of ties into the first one, but if you don't have good clutch and throttle modulation, you're going to struggle, and you're going to end up dumping all this money into it, and it'll kind of fix the problem, but at the end of the day, you're the problem. Or some people, they don't want to hear that. They don't want to be told they're the problem. Next one, anyone on a budget. And there's a bit of a caveat to this. If you're buying this bike new, absolutely, if you're on a budget, bad call. You're gonna need to put some money into it. ECU at least, that's $800. Maybe the throttle tamer, I think that's about $60. The stock seat is god awful. Anyone who's sat on a motocross bike knows that those seats are just terrible. Most people go seat concept, so that's another $300 I think it's $350. Everyone complains about the stock tires. Mine came with the Dunlop D606s on them, and I'll do a review. Yeah, I'll do a review on those later. I've kind of reviewed them in my last video, but they're great and they're not great. So, anyways, we'll take care of that. So that's already a couple $1,000. Suspension, you probably don't really need to mess with. I think the suspension's pretty good, and I weigh about 200 pounds. So maybe 210, 215 with riding gear on. Not loaded down. Someone who needs a lot of power, and I'm talking in like the 50 horsepower and up range. They do not have that kind of power. You might be able to get there if you uncork it a bit, but if you need that power, go with the KTM if you can afford it. Oh, the caveat. I skipped that. Caveat is if you are on a budget and you do want to buy this bike, buy it used, already built out. That's how I bought mine. And I've done a little bit of a walk around on the first video I did. And you can kind of just see everything. I did leave out that it does have the flywheel weight because I didn't realize it until I started going through all my parts finally. Because when I bought the bike, it came with a bin full of parts. So anyways, back to who it's not for. Somebody who only rides single track or does technical riding. If that's all you're doing, don't even waste your time with this bike. Like, oh, I want to be able to ride from my house to the spot. You are better off just transporting your bike there. Because A, it might be a pain in the ass to get it plated, depending on where you live. And B, depending on what kind of bike you have, you might be having to mix your gas, which some people don't think it's a big deal. They'll carry, however much oil on them. But either way, if you're a technical rider that wants, a technical dual sport, this isn't the bike for you. Don't even, that unicorn, I don't believe exists. I do think the FE501s and the EXC F500s, I think those are pretty all right for technical riding. There's a guy on YouTube, Mad Jack Media. He did 5 miles of hell on his FE501. So it can be done on there. Next one, people who like long service intervals. Again, I came off a motocross bike. So I was doing service intervals at every 5 to 7 hours, maybe 10, depending on, kind of how my rides lined up. But those were frequent. And this, every 600 miles. I put 90 miles on mine, and I've only rode it maybe 3 times. And it's just kind of my normal riding I do. That is far beyond what I was doing on my race bike. So there are other people who come off road bikes that have a few thousand mile service intervals, and they expect the same thing. So if you don't mind working on your bike, and again, if you're coming off an MX bike, this is definitely a longer service interval than you're used to. Some people, they just, I don't know. It's the service interval. I don't like this long service interval. It's too short, too frequent. I mean, maybe if you're using it as your commuter bike and, I have to drive 65 miles one way to work. I ain't using it for that. That's when it's going to be too much. And the last one, those who have not done their research. Now, what I mean by that are kind of the people who didn't watch a video like this or any other person's video like this. They saw it on Honda's website, like, I want a dual sport, or maybe they saw it somewhere on Facebook, and like, a dual sport street legal race bike, hell yeah, I'm in. They do zero research, they buy it, and then they're like, I might have messed up. And then I see it on Marketplace with 20, 40, 100 miles on it. And it's like, wasn't the bike for me. Bought it, didn't like it. It's like, yeah, I could see that. You bought it, and then now, you're getting rid of it. That's a $12,000 mistake there. Hopefully you can recoup some of that money, because odds are you're gonna miss out a few $1,000 there. So yes, this bike is my unicorn bike, and I've got no problem saying that. I enjoy it. Is it your unicorn bike? Maybe, maybe not. That's subjective too. But whatever you do, this seems to be kind of one of the most buyer's remorse bikes, or I'll say dual sports, that I've seen. And I did a ton of research before I decided to pull the trigger on it. I thought I could get away with a WR250R, which has more horsepower than, the CRF300Ls and the KLX300s. I rode one, and I started hitting the rev limiter. I'm like, where's the power at? I thought these were supposed to make their power high up in the rev range. I didn't. So don't be afraid to say no to a bike. Definitely test ride it. I showed up to the guy with a WR, and I was fully, ready to buy it, and just wasn't for me. So don't be afraid to do that. A lot of people who regret buying these bikes, and that sucks. It sucks for them. But I'm one of those people who, I'm still in love with this bike. It is still so much fun for me. You have to learn how to ride it. Just like any other bike, they're not always going to be like your last one. Or if you're new, this is not the bike for you. It is absolutely not. Yeah, it looks cool. Looks freaking sweet. But it is not the bike for you. So anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please consider dropping that subscribe. Maybe throw a like. Maybe a comment saying how wrong I am. And I'm trying to grow this channel and drop more content consistently. Right now, it's kind of been focused around my new bike, but it will soon be, since the weather's getting nicer, I will soon be trying to get more outside of that and just doing some adventure stuff. Recording those and presenting them. So anyways, thank you for watching. Again, the video made you feel something you haven't felt in a long time, please consider subscribing. And until then, see you next time.